Sunday, right? Funny old day. Turns out something's broken in my pub quiz app for tonight, which I'm going to have to go and figure out at some point. Don't know when. How you doing? Hey Lewis, hello Tyson. Welcome on in. Casual with the happy funk music in the background. So, I'm doing an empty project. I've decided not to update Danger Zone. It would just be easy for me to explain stuff. I have got a load of templates already, which I may rewrite. I may just sort of go through them, show what's going on. There may be some audience interaction required as well. Just going to get my Unity project into where I want it to be. There's going to be a lot of alt tabbing because I'm only going to be streaming one monitor as well. Yeah, lazy Sunday. Day to best. Right. This is Unity. So, I'm just going to start. Just going to jump straight in. Hackbox. This has already got Hackbox in it, but it won't be the latest version, so I can update to the latest version to show you exactly what you need to do. So that would be a good thing. So what I'm going to need is the link to the Hackbox page, which is on Ash's GitHub. It might be in Discord, actually. Possibly. So, first of all, let me just remove it from the project to begin with. Window, Package Manager, wherever that is, Package Manager. Quite tiny. So, first thing we're going to have to do is get rid of Hackbox that's in here already. There it is, because I'm on 0.2.1, which is very outdated. We want to use the latest version. So to do that, you'll go to that website, which is Ash's GitHub, and then on there somewhere there will be how to install Hackbox Unity. So actually that website might be better. And in there'll be a link that you can copy, and over in your package manager, add packages from Git URL, paste it in, add, and it will pull it down. Hooray, easy peasy, right? Cool. You are going to charge. So this is going to spit a load of issues at me because of stuff to do with TwitchLib, which I am leaving in the project for reasons that will become clear a bit later on. But now I've got Hackbox installed. It's as simple as that. That's all fine. If we hit play, it should run. So Hackbox, unlike Buzzer, oh, you might need Git. Oh, hello, Ash. And you might need Git software. Really? I thought it just did it automatically from the package manager. Just does it. Anyway, that's all installed. Now, if you've got TwitchLib, and I will make this version of TwitchLib available somewhere at some point in the future, this TwitchLib has not got Newtonsoft.json. And the reason for that is Newtonsoft.json is a DLL plugin that allows you to do various things with the Newtonsoft library. I use it for compilation and decompilation of all of the question packs. So they come in just a text file. Newtonsoft.json allows Unity to unpackage that .text file into the JSON format that the game then reads. And it allows it to do it in a single line rather than having to comb through it line by line. Now, because Hackbox has got Newtonsoft.json already built in, if you start trying to put in your own version of Newtonsoft, Unity's going to complain at you because it's basically reads that there are two versions of the same package in the project. So you need a clean version of TwitchLib that doesn't have Newtonsoft.json in it. I can't remember off the top of my head if TwitchLib itself needs Newtonsoft.json. I can't remember if it does or not. If it does, you're going to have to... I'm assuming it doesn't, because I know Topper's got it working without having to fart around with assembly definitions and stuff. But if you're needing it for pack decompilation, then you might have to go around this asdef thing, which I can briefly show you. So this is the assembly definition file over here. What this basically does is that when you get into your script, it tells you're manually telling the editor which libraries you're using. So you can see here, TextMesh Pro, Hackbox, Naughty Attributes, which is the thing that allows me to click buttons, and Shapes, which is a Shapes plugin. And all these references to TwitchLib, I don't know if I need all of them, but I put them all on there anyway, and it works. So it's a relatively simple setup. That's if you need to get at Newtonsoft. But yeah, if you don't need to do that, then we don't need to worry about it. So here's how Hackbox works. I've got a load of empty scripts there that I'm just going to get rid of. So this is just my default template, so I can actually get rid of all of these because I'm not going to use them. Okay, we got empty scripts there. Should have Twitch control on there. Scripts. Generic. Yeah, what is that? We still got compilation errors. Apparently so. Alright, guess we're going from scratch then. Let's get rid of all of those. Hackbox control is... that's the bust one. Game control I'm not going to worry about. Host control we're not going to worry about. So Hackbox and Twitch. And that should now allow me to put Twitch control on there. It's not going to let me put Twitch control on there. Let me try closing and reopening it, because it might have just been where I've updated Hackbox version that it's... Hello Prey, welcome on in. That it's suddenly pitching a fit at me. So I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of how to set up TwitchLib. Ash's tutorial covers that. At least I think it covers that in some more detail. Right, we can ignore that. That's not a problem. And hopefully now we can add our... No, we can't add our Twitch control on. Okay, so this isn't working. The fuck is going on? Why is it not letting me do anything? Fuck. Okay, so this is a great start. Everything is broken. Talk among yourselves. Something's gone wrong here. I was going to try close and reopen again. I don't know why that would work, but something's gone. Something's come unstuck. It's the problem with doing a live tutorial. I should have prepped it. We were having lunch. We had lunch quite late. Okay, it's not giving me any errors that time. So maybe it will let me load my Twitch lib now. Twitch control. There we go. Right, much happier now. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time doing Twitch control. The reason I've got Twitch lib and Hackbox in the same project is because if you're doing a game on stream, it's with Hackbox, it's possible for one player to join with 500 different private browsing mode or incognito mode windows, which is funny for about 10 seconds and then it stops being funny. And so, I mean, the other reason I do it is because of all the penny bank is tied to Twitch username. So if people are going to get pennies and medals and they need to have a username associated with it, it would be possible to do it with a different flag. But obviously, Hackbox, you don't need a Twitch name to do it. So I had to tie up the Twitch lib so that I could authorize it. But now Hackbox has got this Twitch authorization built into it. It makes it much easier, and you actually don't really need Twitch lib at all. But I think it would still be useful to have for two reasons. First reason being it gives people, if you are so inclined to implement it, an alternative way of playing. But also because if people sign on into Hackbox without authorization, if you don't have without having authorized a Hackbox Twitch thing, if you don't have an alternative way for them to then join the game, they are then going to be stuck on the screen. Either that or playing without authorization, which then comes back to the problem we said before. So I will always have Twitch lib in the background, so if someone joins without authorization, they can just sort of sit in the background. So this is my Twitch lib code. All my secrets are now in a separate file, so they're not publicly here. And I don't necessarily need to go through that, not at the moment anyway. That just works when you create a lobby code. But we're not here to talk about Twitch. I'll get back to it in a little while. Let's look at Hackbox. So I've got to set up Hackbox. Once it's installed, you'll be able to set up a new component. Let's just get rid of that and I'll show you how to add it. So in this case, I've got Hackbox control here. I'm going to add a new component, and it's just called host. If you're not seeing host, it means something has gone wrong with the import of the package, and it's not recognizing that, so you might need to double check if in the package manager if it is installed correctly or if you've got any conflicts anywhere else. But once you're done there, you go into host. Host version, different versions do different things. I tend to just leave it at the default of 1. I think it was it in version 2 or was it version 1 coming out of version 0 that it didn't update if you sent the same information out. But yeah, that's host name is something I've not used before. Has a tooltip on that. A specific host name for this host instance, right? So presumably that's if you could join with a particular name. So if I could set that as host Ben, for example, and join as that, then you become the host host client or host device, I suppose. Debugging I generally set to off, and then you've got all these little plugins here. They're not called plugins, I can't remember what they're called, interfaces maybe, and lots of very useful information. But this host script, this is just a black box. You just need it to be there. Once it's there, if you hit play and we go to the console, it's because I've turned debugging off. That's why. If I leave it on minimal for now so you can actually see things happening. Let's chuck the game window out of the way because I want to focus on something else. Let's go minimal and we hit play. See, immediately it will connect to Hackbox and create a room for you and spit out the code into your console. It's literally as simple as that. Now your room is ready to go. Easy peasy. Right. Now onto the slightly more meaty stuff. We'll come back to some of these in a little bit, but for now, we're going to add on my Hackbox control script. Now this is a custom script that I've made which controls all of my Hackbox things, and anything I need to do goes through here. So let's go and take a look at it, what's going on. Hackbox host, that's just a reference to the host class we added before. Twitch control, that's a reference to your Twitch class so that you can correlate the two. Game control, obviously all of my game logic goes in through that class there. OTP generator, this is a one-time password generator. This is really helpful for creating, as the name suggests, one-time passwords. I tend to lump them all onto the Twitch control object because this is where all of that happens, so it's going to add an OTP generator. It's a very, very simple little script. All it does is create a password of a given length, which is not necessarily unique, but it's a really useful way of tying a Hackbox account to a Twitch account before the authorization was in place. So we'll leave that there for now. Let's just associate Hackbox control, game control we don't need to worry about. And let's associate the other way. So there's Twitch control, Hackbox host, OTP generator, text box, input box, option box, game ended is just a bool that we'll use when the game is ended. So let's take a look at some Hackbox pre-setups. I've got a Hackbox folder down here, and I've got some various objects there, and these were created in the old system. What these are, you've got themes, presets, and there's another one as well, which I forget. States, maybe? State asset, which I'm not sure I've actually used before. I do it in a slightly different way. Your theme is, as the name suggests, a theme that you want your Hackbox thing to look like. So your header color, header background, your main color, your main background. I'm not quite sure why some of them are on a palette selector and some of them are using a hex code. There is probably a very clever under the hood reason as to why that is, which I'm sure Ash would be able to explain to you. But all you need to know is that your header color, well, they've all been reset. Your header color, that is your font color. Your main color is your main font color, and then the background is a background color. The main background is the main background color. So by default, I set this to blue. Well, that's what that is. That hex code there is a blue color. Background not fixed. Oh, the community gradients, whatever. Okay, that's why. So yes, they're not fixed to colors. So if you're into CSS and you want to put some custom CSS there, hello Lewis. You can make stripy backgrounds and things like that. So that's why. So your colors, your header color, your main color, those are fonts. Background and main background are the background of the overall theme. And that's all you need for that. And if you're just having a standard theme, and of course you can change these dynamically in the script as well, if you want to, but if you're just having a set theme, that's what you want. For me, rather than changing them dynamically, I just have a number of themes: blue theme, green theme, orange, and red, just with a different header background color for each, and everything else is pretty much the same. I've then got my 3 presets here, and as you can see, these were made in an old version of Hackbox, so these are no longer needed, so I'm just going to remove these. And we'll go through them. I'm going to add another one. I'm going to add a range, and I'll do that manually a bit later on. So text box, options box, and input box. What these are: text box, as you might imagine, is just a box of text. It displays text. It does nothing else. It's not interactable. It just displays text. This is useful for a question, for example. If you're making a quiz game, your question will probably go onto a text box component. You make it as a preset so that when you come to add these onto a package to deploy out to a client, you don't have to reset your align, your background, your border, your color. I have a feeling I am actually doing that in the code anyway, which sort of defeats the point of the preset. But there we go. So it's a few options: text input, buzzer, button choices, range is the latest one that Ash has just added, which I will create from scratch in a little while. Text is, as I said, your standard text. Text input is what input box is under, which means you can do a typed response that the game will then read. Buzzer is, as the name suggests, it's a buzzer. It's just a single button. You click it once, and then you can't click it again. It freezes you out. And I don't think it automatically freezes out other players when you use it, so you need to manually control that yourself. Button is a button, although choices is what I tend to use for options because it allows you to have multiple choices. You've also got the ability to add multi-select, which I think is in here. Possibly there. There it is, multi-select. So choices is a straightforward A, B, C, D. You select one, and then it takes a response, and you can't say anything else. Event and submit I've not really played with. Multi-select is where if you're doing like fastest finger first, you can press them in a certain order. And then there'll be a submit button at the bottom. Both of those are useful. If I were going to have a game where I had multi-select and single select in the same game, I would probably just create a different preset rather than fiddling about with changing that. But that's what we're going to look at for now. So let's just make a choice, a multi-select one. So I'm going to use this options box as my template. I'm just going to duplicate that and go multi-select. Still want it to be choices. Background. Oh, there's some new options there. Gradient. I'm going to stick with a standard color for now. Align is center. That's my standard border that I use, which is that orangey border, I think. Color, that will be the font color, font size, width. And we're just going to change that to multi-select. Choices down there, that's just an empty parameter list at the moment. It means you don't have to create the parameter list inside, but that is effectively what your choices are going to be. So in there, you could set that as a that would be your option, basically. So I just have that as an empty parameter list, so I can then dick about with it inside the code itself. And that's it. There's my multi-select all set up. So once you've got your presets and your themes and whatnot set up, you can load them into your themes array in here. So we've got our blue theme, green theme. If I'll go blue, orange, green, and red themes. And then we've got our presets in here, which have all been set up initially. So we have our text box preset, we've got our input box preset, our options box preset, and let's just go back into the class and add a new one. Public preset, multi-select box, and we'll write that bit of script in a minute. So back into our Hackbox folder and multi-select bosh. And by and large, that's sort of all you'll need if you're doing something relatively straightforward. It may not be all you'll need, but if you're doing something relatively straightforward, that should be about the limit of what you'll need. So let's take a look at this class a little bit more closely. So I've obviously already written this, so rather than typing it again and making mistakes, because it's one of those things you write it once and I sort of forgot about it, so I don't have to keep going back, but it does just sort of work. On create a room, so this is the method that we're going to call when the room has been created. Now, debug log, that's just a custom class that allows me to debug in a particular way into the console, so I can make things different colors. I can make it bold or italic, which is really useful for delineating different types of information, different types of data that you might need to get at in the console in a friendly way. So that's all that's about there. And so you can see here when you join a game, it prints in yellow, welcome to game title. That's just a placeholder name. Players can join the game at Hackbox using the room code, and then there's the room code. So that is called automatically when the game starts. Now that you're seeing, you might think, hang on, it's not yellow at the moment. Why isn't it debugging anything? It's because we're not calling that method. So if we go back to our host script here, on room created, on room connected, on room disconnected, all of these little interfaces here. If we go on room connected, which is where we want to do, and we add, we've got an option to call a function here. So we add in our Hackbox control, and what's it called? On created room. We have that there. So when this action fires, it will call this method. So now we should see our Hackbox debug and also our yellow debug there for the game. Hello, Jack. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're keeping well. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday. So yeah, simple as that, and that's just a simple little debug command there. So now I can actually switch off the Hackbox debugging, because no disrespect to Ash, but I prefer mine. Because I like the colours. And say this gets lots and lots of characters there in there. Of course, Hackbox debugging is useful for other functions, but I'd like to keep a clean console where possible. Okay, so that's my on-created room, which is nice and easy. On open lobby, that's a public method that I call when I open the game lobby. So let's just add a button to that. I'm going to need to add naughty attributes top. And this is going to go twitch.sendbot message. Now, sendbot message, this is over in if I still want to use my Twitch bot to talk to the chat, for example. Sendbot message, this is all it does. Client.send message, client.join channel 0 message. Client is, it was a separate class. I think I merged it, or it might still be a separate class. Let's have a look. You don't need to worry too much. Go and watch Ash's Twitch tutorial if you want a bit more info on that, but let's just take a quick look. Generic. No, I did all merge it into one. So there it is, client, which is the thing that operates all of TwitchLib and makes the things talk to each other. So that basically, what that means is that will send a message into the chat. Unless I'm in test mode, in which case it just debugs it for me, as I will demonstrate now for you, by putting us into test mode. Hang on. Game control.test mode. Oh, I'm going to need to put a game control script on. Okay, we'll do a basic game control script. No. Yes, game control. Okay, new object. Game control. Insert the transform. And chuck our game control object on there. So let's just hook a few more variables. Associate a few more variables, rather. Right. So, get rid of a few of the things there that we don't need. Decompile pack. Don't want that. Don't need that anymore. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. And we'll get rid of that as well. I keep launch game there, so because I generally don't call start out of multiple methods, not if it's a main logic thing. So I will call the start method in the Hackbox code or the host code. Whoops. And then on creative room, but I won't call it out of here. I will call that launch game will be called from somewhere else. Just to make that a bit easier. Right, I'm now missing something in host control. Actually, we don't need host control. That's the one I tend to control everything from, but we're not actually making a game here. So, and some more that we're missing. That's my Hackbox stuff. Oh, actually, I haven't done quite as much. Oh no, I've got all the generation down there. Right. Decompile pack. What's this? Gameplay pennies. Oh, we don't need gameplay pennies because we're not going to be doing any of that. So just delete all that. And now we should be happy. Well, there we go. So we can now associate our game control and our Twitch control. So there's three key objects here. Your Twitch control, your Hackbox control, and your game control. Game control is for your game logic, Twitch is for Twitch, Hackbox is for Hackbox. So now, actually if I just pop it into test mode a minute, is what we want to do, otherwise it's going to start, it will start writing to the chat, in fact we'll see that in a minute. On open lobby, you'll see, I'm Persephone's Twitch. After joining, you need to issue validation codes to me. So that is now slightly outdated because of the way the authorization now works on it. If I take it out of Twitch mode, just to show you, and we press that button, go to Hackbox control on open lobby, and there's Persephone's Twitch button. And learn the game. Which is, it makes sense, Jack. Good to hear. So you see that all works, and say that's all just pre-set up in my template. Normally I wouldn't put that in Hackbox control. In fact, I'm not quite sure why it is in Hackbox control. Come to think about it, that should probably be in game control. So let's just pop that back in there, and it will do exactly the same thing. Okay, send out Twitch verification member. Now, what this should probably be called, I'm not going to rename it. Hello Theory, I'm Spartacus Twitch. I see what's happening there. Welcome to the stream, Theory. So what you should probably be doing here, instead of send out Twitch verification, which is a slightly unhelpfully named method there, we're going to call this on player joins room, because that is what we're going to call there. So let's just step through each of these states. I'm not going to go too much into the code of it. You can sort of look that up in your own time and just sort of explain the methods of what I'm doing and why. So first thing we're going to check is, does a player by that name already exist in the game? This is a personal preference. I don't like having players with the same name in the same room, though you can now have it with Hackbox. But lobby players, which is this list of players up here. Incidentally, player is my own custom class which controls all players in the game. So if we go to game, player, looks a bit like that. All these we'll get to in a minute. But that's the sort of the foundation of my player class. All of any information that's pertinent to the player that is going to be stored on there. For different games, it'll be different things, but that's all necessary for setup. Points is that, and then this is obviously necessary for pennies and medals, but we don't need that for now. So, does a player by that name already exist? If it does, we're going to generate a new state, and I'll talk you through this method in a minute. Add it to add a text box to it by saying that, and then send it out to that member and return. So that player is then locked out of the game. They won't be able to rejoin. They would have to rejoin with private browsing mode, because the cache is stored in the browser. So if they try and rejoin in the same browser, it will just take them straight back to that page, which is really useful for disconnections. But if you're encountering issues like this, where people have got the same name, then they might run into problems. But it's one of those things. It's a preference thing. Game ended, that ball we talked about earlier on. If the game has ended, then you can't join the game. It won't let you start, and it does exactly the same thing. Do I want to talk about what I'm doing after, or do I want to talk about state generation first? Let's do state generation first. So state is the object type that is basically the data package that is sent out to your client end. And I'm calling this error state, and we're calling this method generate base state, where we want to go down to the definition. Now this is all down here in Hackbox input generation, and I do this because I can write this once and then forget about it. And so if I want to create a new Hackbox state, I can just go generate base state with a couple of parameters in there, and you can do overloads and things. So if you wanted one that has a default, you don't have to define the color every time. This should probably be in an enum as well, rather than, in fact, it's probably something. No, I can't be asked to change it now. But realistically, what I would probably have done here is gone public enum color scheme equals how do I actually define an enum again? Is it just like that? You go blue, orange, red, green, red, let's say. And then when you're accepting arguments here, you just go public color scheme, color hex code, and then you'd switch no, you wouldn't switch that. You would switch color hex code, and then you go case color scheme dot blue, for example. Would be, for God's sake, I can't bloody type today. That's how I should probably have done it, but haven't done it here. But that's effectively what's going on there. So it just means you can define the color anytime you like, and it does it with a string. So you just have to type in, like I've got here, yellow and yellow. Enum is a better way to go about that rather than just doing it with strings. But we live and learn. At some point, I will go back and update that, but it's not really the point of what we're doing today. So we go down into this to create a new state for ourselves. We feed it the color hex code that we want, which we can then switch out in the switch statement, and a header text. They're the only things that you need to generate a basic state. So the theme, that's the theme we talked about earlier on. In this case, it's just blue, red, green, or orange. If it's blank, so if you send it an empty string, it will just generate a blue one. Blue is default. Again, another reason why an enum would be a better thing to have there. So that's the first thing we need to do. We create our theme. We've got our theme. TH is what we've called it. I probably don't need that is null there, because you can just define it down there, but make sure it is empty before going on. So we then need to create a new state. So state new state equals new state, and then it accepts the properties in here. Theme equals th, because you've got to give the state a theme. We've already created our theme from up here. Theme equals th, so we set that. Okay, great. Next, new state.set header text. This is a Hackbox method. And that's the standard one that comes with Hackbox. Set header text, and you give it the header text that you pass through. Easy peasy. And again, yeah, set header parameter, align, and center. I've already done that in the state asset out here, I think, or the preset asset. Or did I? Can't remember now. Hackbox. Let's say we're just doing a text box at the moment. Align center, yes. So I've already set that, so I don't quite know why I've repeated that in there. Takani says that's entirely 2011. Yeah, accurate. So that may or may not be necessary. Color hex code is there, then we just return the new state. Otherwise, th.header background equals color hex code, and then return the new state. So all that is doing is generating a base state with a header and a color. So let's just show that in action. Let's get a Hackbox window up here. Oops. Hackbox.ca. It's not been on Hackbox on this browser before. So let's say we go. Well, first of all, on player joins room. So this generate base state, red error. Let's go if mem dot, and mem is the Hackbox object that's being passed in. M.name equals then all caps. We'll just go state, error state, red error, and the message will be then is a silly sausage. So generate base state is the one I just taught you through there. Exactly what was going on with that. It just builds up the object. Add text box to state. Let's go and have a look at this one. Very, very simple. You need to send it the state, which is why you always need to generate your state first. So you send it the state and the message that you want it to contain as well. UI component is a new UI component box. Give it its properties there. Name equals textbox, preset equals textbox. So that's the preset that we defined in the inspector. And then this line of code, box.set parameter value text, and that is referring to something that isn't here. Probably be there, sample text, but quite self-evidently you don't need to have it on your preset if you don't want to. So box.set parameter value text, if it's not defined there, it doesn't look like you need to put it in there. Ash may be able to offer some clarity on that. I suppose this is if you want to have a standard text box that is there saying sample text the whole time. Let's just leave that on a minute. Set parameter value text message. Let's add another one. See what happens. State.components.add box. So that basically adds this component that we've just created, this box, onto your state, and it will return it out to there. Then your standard update member state. Mem is the member that you're updating. Error state is the state you're sending to it. So if we now play this, quite curious what's going to happen with those extra text boxes. So obviously room code xqkw, Ben. And oh, it's not done anything. And why is that? That's because we haven't called the join method. So if we go back to our Hackbox host again, on member joined, that's where the action that calls what we want. So we need to associate that method with that action. On player joins room, notice it's at the top because it needs to accept a member type, which will automatically be created in this action here. So now back and we go MJ. This is my wife's old company, MJB. We join, and it says error. Ben is a silly sausage. So we can see that works. Hooray! Easy peasy. What was I going to do? Oh yes, the text box state. Yeah, having these parameters here, having more than one, if you're setting it, then it obviously overrides it, but you don't actually need to have them in there, which is good. Okay. Well, you asked us for missing that. Yeah, I am. Well, it's tutorial, so, you make errors. These are errors people are likely to make when using this stuff. Okay, let's go on to authorization at this point, because this is where I can update my my class here to account for having the Twitch authorization. So one of the problems you're going to get with Hackbox is if you want to have determining whether you want an authorized game or a non-authorized game. My feeling is that it's always good to have some level of authorization in here. So, for example, I use Hackbox in my IRL pub quiz, which has no association with Twitch. But when players join that game, they're basically put in a holding room, and then I get a ping on the host device saying this team name wants to join. Would you like to authorize them? And that's to stop. I think I mentioned to Prey last night. It's to stop teams putting names like Big Chungus 69420 or other more offensive names that they might put, and then I can either decline, which will then just a great name. If I decline, it means that they are then stuck on a screen and they won't get any more information from the game. You can't really kick people from this, but you can put them into a state and then never send them any more information. Which is another reason I never use send to all members. I always get update member state rather than update all member states. I won't use that because that will then making a Twitch account, right? So I will just have some level of authorization. Obviously, on game night, it's because of the penny authorization and the medals, and principally for cat. But as Ash is saying, and it's if you're doing a casual game at a Discord where you've only got four players in the room, extra authorization steps aren't really going to be necessary. You're just taking in whoever comes to join the game there. If you've got, say, if there's a currency or like channel currency behind it, having authorization is really useful. If you're in a public-facing setting, or if people are or if you think you might be getting some trolly people, having an extra layer of authorization takes. Yeah, that's another way of doing it. Just limit it to X number of players, and after 5, send them to a holding room. But I'm going to show you how I would go about authorization for a Twitch game, and say you can either use this or not. Assume we've got through all of our control tests up at the top here, and I'm going to get rid of that one. Then we come down to creating my custom player class. So like I said, this is my custom player class, which should probably have a constructor in it, but it doesn't. Why don't I do that now? Oh, well, it's not going to be a general dev stream, is it, Ben? So, new player. We need to give them a Hackbox avatar so that whenever I reference my player object, I can also reference their Hackbox profile. So if I need to send them something, I can access that through the player. So that's the first thing we define. Hackbox avatar. Name, which is the name they have set from on the Hackbox screen. So in this case, it'll be Ben over there. We generate a one-time password for authentication. We add them to pending players. Now, I'm going to slightly change this up because we don't necessarily need to do all of that. So, we do need to associate the Hackbox avatar no matter what, and we need to associate the player name no matter what. Those are things, player name and Hackbox avatar. Those are the two things that happen at the beginning and must always happen. These ones, that one needs to be set as well, but we'll get to that in a minute. These ones are going to be needed, well, that one will also be needed, but we'll do that separately. Twitch name and OTP are only going to be needed if you're going through the Twitch authorization process. Now, member on this new version of Hackbox, in this case, mem.twitch. So this is a new property that's in the Hackbox member that Ash added in the .4 update. So what we're going to do, we're going to add a control here. If mem.twitch equals null or mem.twitch.username equals blank. And what this is going to check is whether or not they have authorized on Twitch. If they haven't authorized on Twitch, I think this is right, the member.twitch object will just be null. So you don't need to. So you just need to check if it's null. But I put that one in as a secondary check just in case, because there are no Twitch users who have no characters in their name. So if either of those conditions are true, then we need to manually authorize player. So for me, this is another reason. If you've got someone who joins and you're just going to send them to a waiting room and you haven't got any other method of authorizing them, but you need an authorized player, then they're going to be stuck there and they're going to have to go to a different browser window to get into your game. So this is why, again, I think it's useful to keep TwitchLib in the project. So if this is the case, it means that we don't know who they are. It's a random person who's come and joined, and we don't want to have more than one player, one Hackbox avatar per player in the game. So they need to validate and authorize who they are. So we generate them a one-time password, and we add them to our pending players list over in our Twitch class over here. And at that point, we need to send some information back out to the player. Need to manually authorize player, and that's what this is all doing here. So state, new state, generate base state. We're just going to give it the default color and game title. Add our text box to our state, so new state, which is the one we've just done here. To verify who you are and to register any pennies, this is the message that will be going on the text box. Please whisper the following validation code to Persephone's Twitch bot, and then we add another text. So there's no reason that couldn't go in the same message, but I like to put it over two. Add another text box to the state, new state, p.otp, Hackbox host, update member state. So what that's going to do, if you sign in without authorizing your Twitch account, it's going to send this out to them. And let me demonstrate that working now. So we start. I'm not authorized, and so from when we go JPNL, we join as Ben. Ping. Welcome to game time to validate who you are, and there is our one-time password. And that's what I'll need to whisper to Persephone's Twitch bot so that I can associate my Twitch account with my Hackbox account. Now that's if they're not validated, and I'll go through the steps for if they're not validated in a minute for getting them validated. What if they do have a valid Twitch account, are authorized on Twitch? Well, what we don't need is the generate one-time password, because we don't need them to validate, because they already are. We don't need to add them to pending players, but we do need to create a new state, and we need to fill in the other variables that are missing. Welcome to game title. The game will begin shortly. Just say something like that in there, and update member state. But before we do that, we need to update these other variables so we know who they are. We also need to get their profile image, because that isn't stored as a texture file, it's stored as a link, so you need to webhook into this in order to pull it down, which I will probably copy and paste some other code because I can never remember how to do it from scratch. So those two have already been set no matter what. These four need to be set elsewhere. So we've got profile image, Twitch name, OTP we don't need, and verified we'll do at the very end. So let's do Twitch name. And we're going to go P, because we're still using the same player object from up here, dot Twitch name equals mem. Remember, that's the Hackbox thing that's come down. M dot Twitch dot username. And this is just a personal thing, just because the penny bank works all in lowercase. I always force everything to lowercase, lower in case and sensitivity. Yeah. Twitch name is mem.twitch.username.to-lower-variable. Now for me, I can very often when I come to do pennies get it mixed up between p.twitchname and p.playername, and if I try and write pennies to p.playername, it will add the name Ben to the penny bank. Of course I want to write it to Twitch name, so that's really important to remember there. That will send that back out to the player, and we'll get on with to showing a shortcut to doing this later on, rather than having to add text box to say, because even this, it's a shorter way of doing it, but we can condense this even further with some custom message methods, which we'll get to in a little while. Update member state. The other thing we need is to get their profile picture. So, and we'll just do this in the same class. We'll go public IEnumerator get profile pic. And I'm going to pinch some code from somewhere else. Let's just nick that one for now. And I'll just... It doesn't need to be as complex as this. We'll call this get profile pic. We just need a... we don't even need all that, really. In fact, we don't even need any of that. We just need that one. In fact, there's probably... You know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do? Rather than... Because that's not the one I need to base it off at all. I'm going to go and nick some code from somewhere else. Is it Dealer's Den? Did I do that in Dealer's Den? Let's have a look. So I'm not reinventing the wheel if I've already done it once. Oops. Game, scripts, game, Hackbox control. No. Well, that's a really nice region of a single method of a single line in there. I did it in the escape artist, didn't I? I think. Game. So it's game scripts, game control. Yes, I did. There we go. That's the algorithm I'm after. That can go as well. So this is what we need. Download profile pic. And we can use that. And player has been verified. That is what we want, and I do need to put a parameter on there. Okay, so in fact, no, I don't even need to do any of that because that will come when the player gets verified later on. So we can get rid of all of that. No, we don't. Sorry, this one. I can get rid of that. Set the Twitch name, then we start a coroutine, download profile pic, and we pass it the member, and we pass it the player. And then this is going to take care of it. So it's stored in m.twitch, so member.twitch avatar URL. This is our little web request hook, which will download the picture, and as soon as it's downloaded, it will call this player has been verified method with the player object in there. And this is where we will send back the information that we want. So if P hasn't been verified, because we don't want to verify players twice, and the profile image is not null, which it won't be because it has been called out at the end of this coroutine. Oh, something you might want to do here actually in this. If for whatever reason it can't download the profile picture, it will just set it as null. So here you might want to go p.profile image equals default profile image, which I will put up here somewhere. Public texture default profile image, just so that it's not blank and it can still call the method. So we're going to set that as default profile image and then go player has been verified P. So as long as they haven't been verified, so even though it's called player has been verified, only players that haven't been verified can go into this method. So we set verified to true, and then we send back the information that we want. And if we were playing a game, then we would initiate a prefab of some sort there, so that they've got an in-game avatar. And then you've got a player with all the information that you need. It's got its profile image, Twitch name, OTP hasn't been used if they've authorized their account, and they've verified their account. And we can see that working here now. So, need to manually authorize player, and I'll do that bit for you in a minute. Otherwise, if they're already on Twitch, you can do it this way. So let's just boot this game up. Oops. Oh yeah, I'll worry about that in a bit, because that does a slightly different way of getting stuff. So now, if I just sign in with my Hackbox account here, there we go. And if I now join at KJSD, Ben. Boom. And we're straight in. We've been authorized, and I've not had to do any of the other things. Whereas, if I disconnect from Twitch, and now join with the name Ben at NSWC, now it's asking me to register through the bot. So that's effectively how simple it is to authorize with this new Twitch authentication system. Like I say, depending on the use case of the game that you're making, it may not be necessary at all to do this authorization. If it's a very casual game like a PQA or something in that vein, then you don't need to go through this authorization rigmarole. But it is useful if you do need to have some level of control over how many players are in the game, who is allowed to come into the game, what they're allowed to be called, and so on. So that's what that is all about there. How we doing for time? 4:15. I've got a couple of hours. Okay, let's look at this manual authorization. So we've generated a one-time password, and I've added them to this other list over here called pending players, and sent them another message and updated their state. So pending players over here is a list of players that have joined on Hackbox, but we don't know who they are yet. So, and this will contain a player, and each of these players will have, hopefully, not necessarily unique, but it's close to unique-ish one-time password. The odds of getting two identical ones are quite small. So, message received. This is the method by which when somebody writes into the chat, this is the method that is called. Identity is their Twitch ID. The message is what they said, and the whisper is whether or not it was whispered. I think. Is that cool? We've got a spaniel. Hello, spaniel. Should we close the door so you can't escape? Do you want to see a spaniel? Come on, Dex. And say hello to the nice boys and girls. Oh. He just had a bath yesterday, so he's all soft and smooth and lovely. Silky smooth. I'll go back to my tutorial. Can I go back to my tutorial? There you go. I love you too. There you go. There you go. Right. Go to sleep. Find a nice spot on the carpet and have a lie. Dex, no. Go to sleep. Where were we? Oh yes, authorization. So, this one is if somebody whispers and yeah. So if they're already in, so Hackbox.lobby players, this is where validated players go. So if they've already validated and they whisper to the bot. Obviously, this is where you'd have to have a slightly different use case if you want them to be able to Hackbox and answer in TwitchLib. This wouldn't work. But for this case, if they whisper to the bot after they've been validated, it'll debug for me and it'll send a message into the Twitch chat saying you've already been validated. Otherwise, if they whisper something that doesn't fit with this criteria, it'll debug to me saying invalid validation code received. And this is where the validation stuff happens. So we go through our pending players, and if any of them, if any of their one-time passwords is equal to what has been typed, and the one-time passwords are always generated as uppercase, I think, and it forces the message to uppercase. But if you're not sure, you can force it to uppercase there. So it compares. So basically, if there are any players on the pending list, any players on the pending list with this one-time password, it is this player who is typing it. And so what we do there is we grab that first or default player with the OTP, and again, dot to upper invariant, dot to upper invariant. Here is where we set their Twitch name, and this comes from the identity class. So id.username, and again, we'll force that to lower invariant if it's not already been done. And then there's this slightly janky method of getting the image from the TwitchLib side of things. We make a new string, we add their Twitch name onto it, and we start this coroutine, which is all the way down here. request user images coroutine. This has got an end action, which I've never fully quite understood because you can't pass a... I haven't figured out how to pass a parameter back through to this end action, which is image search complete. So what I actually tend to do, which I need to update in the template, is get rid of the invoke because it's not really needed. And instead of doing that, we just call image search complete P, and we send the player that is validated back through, and then we can have player P. So I've gone through that very, a bit quickly, and I'll go through it in a bit more detail now. So create a new list. We start this coroutine with the name of that list, and then we add the lobby player, the player into hackbox.lobbyplayer. So I'm now wondering, where does that happen over here? I don't think it does anywhere. No, we don't. So that's one thing I've forgotten to do over here, and actually I could save myself a line of code by doing it in player has been verified. Lobby players dot add P. So if we do it there, and then we don't need to do it there. We need to remove them from the pending list, print myself a little message to say that and into the chat say you've now been validated. This coroutine handles all of the downloading the image, and again, we might want to just go P dot profile image equals hackbox dot default profile image, whatever that is. Debug an error for us. If I'm doing a log an error, debug log dot in bold. There we go. So it won't stop the build now. This is, to be honest, this is a coroutine I pinched from Ash, and I've never bothered to fully unpick it. I just know that it works. And then once it's got the image, it will go image search complete, which is this one here, and this is where we then call Hackbox player has been verified back in our Hackbox class over here. And it does exactly the same as it did before, except now it's got this information out of TwitchLib. So to show you what that would look like, let's load game. I'm not authorized at the moment. There we go. Load it up, HTQL. QL. Going to ask me to whisper this message here. If I just put it in the public chat, you'll see I'm now validated for the game. So it does work in public chat as well as in whispers. And I've also got a little backdoor way of whispering for any player there. So that's how I would do the authorization and the getting into Hackbox. It's relatively simple stuff to do. But that's sort of the fundamentals of how it works using TwitchLib as well. So yeah, that's pretty much getting a player into the game, and once they're in there, you can then initiate your prefab and do whatever you like. So we look a little bit at this generate base state down here. Add text box to state is fairly standard. Add input box to state is even simpler. You create a box, give it the preset input box, state.components.add box, which is that there, and it just adds on that input box to the state. You don't need to do anything else because it's just an input box that will then be responded, read back into whatever you're doing with the build. Options is a bit more complicated. If you want to add a question and options, this is what we've got here. It's a slightly hairier way of doing it, and I've got these little comments here that remind me what I need to do. So we create our new component as before. Options equals new UI component. Choices parameter options info equals options.get parameter choices parameter choices. Just roll with me on this. Options info.value equals new choices parameter dot choice, and then we have our loop, and this is where we add stuff onto the game. So the arguments accepted here are state, a string array for option labels, and a string array for option returns. Now this is this will again vary from case to case. You could have a game where you've got multiple choices, and what would probably make sense for me to do as well is just have the option returns the same as the label. So labels, as it says down here, is what is displayed on the button. Return is the value that's returned to the build. So if for some reason, and I'm thinking about it now, I don't quite know why I've set it up like this, but let's say you want your labels to be answer 1, answer 2, answer 3, and answer 4. But when you press them, the thing that is returned to the build is going to be A, B, C, and D. Now I do it like this because it's easier then to just cross-check with has a letter. So I have a variable called expected letter in my in my games if it's multiple choice. There's no reason on earth I couldn't just do it as, you know, sending the letter down, but it's up to you how you want to do it. So let's just do a little quick example with this options box here. So add options to state, and they're all the basic input generations that I've got. Now we might want to do something that's a little bit more that saves us a bit of time. Let's say let's stick this in a region. Call it setup, and the region down there. Now we can get rid of it. So let's have a little bit of fun and make some test questions. In fact, no, we'll call this state shortcuts. So, depending how into overloads you want to get, is going to determine how much you actually do with this. Let's start with a basic state that you're going to need to send out to a player, and we'll call this send question, or I don't know, simple question state. What are we going to need to create this state? We are going to need a string with a message. And let's say you want to have the option to change the color. So we do another one called simple question state, put string message, and then we go string color code, for example. So what we want to do in this is be able to create the entire template for what we need by just calling one method and not having to add text box to state every time. So let's just reference up here. So we've got something to have a look at. First thing we need to do is create a new state. So we'll go state, qstate equals new state. Equals generate base state, and game title, that's what I'm going to put in there as the header, because remember, generate base state is the color hex code and the title, or the header of the thing. We're then going to go qstate, add text box to state, and now we need to give it the state, question state, and the message, which is message. And the other thing you might want to put on here, thinking about it again, is member, and that's who you're going to send it to. There might be a better way of doing this. I'll go with this for now. So we add a text box to a state, and then we go hackbox host dot update member state m q state. Now let's say you want to do one where update member state m q state. Now if you want to do one where you want to be able to change the color, so at the moment this will just be a default color, rather than having to copy out all this code again, we can simply call simple question state m message and oh, hang on, no, I've done this the wrong way around. That, sorry, needs to be in there. And then if we want to do that, we can then go simple question state m message and an empty string. So what this is going to do here is if we're just calling with, oh, have we run out of music? Let's put the other track on. There we go. Let's try this. It's gone a bit quiet. We send a simple question state without a color hex code. It's going to send a default blank one, and then here, where's that color code? So we can now send a simple question state to anyone we like, simply by calling this method. So it's all set up, ready to go. So we don't really need to be farting around with adding text box to state. I mean, that's a more helpful way of doing it than, actually physically adding a text box every time you want to do it. But now we can go send simple question state. And actually, we can even test this one step further by, and bear in mind, this is a very simple question state where there is only one. So let's say we want to be able to send, let's just rename this to send text only. Let's call it send text only. I'm going to create another one here, which is actually going to take a string array called messages. So if we want to send more than one, we can do that from the same overload. So let's make all of these. Let's make that one. Do this. So if we go into here, we're going to go send text only. This is then going to go on to call send text only messages and then the hex color code. So let's say we go. I realised I've missed one. Okay. String array. Oops. String array s equals new string array 1. S0 equals message. Then we can go S and color code. So what we're trying to do here is create overloads so that we can send either a single message or multiple messages by calling the same method each time. And we can just change what we're adding in. I just realized I missed one because if we need to send a single message with we need to send multiple messages without a color code. Okay, so let's just do that one and string array messages, and that's going to be the same thing. We're going to go send text only messages, and yeah, I think that's right. So okay, so if we give it just a member and a single string, it'll go into here, and it will then, which will forward it onto this one. No, it won't. It will forward it onto this one, which will then turn our single string into a string array and send it onto this one, which does the actual work. If we send it straight in with a string array, it will send it into this one. No, it won't. It will send it straight to this one, which then does the business end of what we want to do. If we send a single string with a color code, it goes here and then here. And if we send, yeah, so that's how we get around doing that. So now we can send as many messages as we like in a single state using the same method call, which is really handy. One thing we need to do here though is change this to a for loop for int I equals 0, I is less than messages.length I++, and so for every message that you send, you're going to be able to send out. So let's just see if that works in our thing up here. Let's update. Let's do this one, because this is needing to send out a single message. So we'll go send text only, and we're going to give it mem, and we're going to give it this message here. Please try an alternative name. And we want it to be red, so we're going to give it the color code red on the end there. The one thing that I haven't added in here is the capacity to change the header in the state shortcuts here. So at the moment it's always going to default to game title. That'd be something else I could add in as a changeable parameter, but for now I'm not going to bother about it. So instead of doing all this, we can simply call that, and that does exactly the same thing for us. Let's just maximize this a minute. Let's do the same down here. That's what we want to send. The game has now ended. And again, we want that to be red because that is an error. And then we don't need any of that. Now here, we are going to need to create a string array. String array s equals new string array 2. Oops. And the first one is going to be this great block of text. And the second one is going to be p.otp. Oops. Ah! There we go. p.otp. So there's our string array. And now we can call exactly the same thing. Send text only. And we can send it just s, which is our string array, and we want it to be, let's say, orange this time, just to change up. Or we could do it without, parameterless there. And so you can see here now we're starting to really cut back on the amount of lines that we're going to need to write, because we can do it all through these state shortcuts. This is the sort of the nub of what I wanted to talk about today, really. Yeah, so that's that all done, and then player has been verified, and we do the same here, and here we don't need an array, we can just go send text only, p.hackbox avatar, and what did I say? What did I say? Welcome to game title, play will begin shortly. Welcome to game title, play will begin shortly. So hopefully, having just reduced all that text, this will now work exactly as we want it to, and mean that we can save ourselves a lot of time in the code by having more efficient code. So let's join as a non-verified player VBDS. We'll join as Ben. And it'll ask me to verify. Paste that into there. It's going to come back, well, game title. So it's doing exactly the same thing here, but it's just speeding up and streamlining our code over here to make it a bit more elegant. But this extends to questions as well. So if we want to send out a load of questions, so let's... so we've edited the ones that we've already done there, so we can close that one up now. These are our state shortcuts. So we're just going with text for now. Let's say we've got... question testing, we'll call this. Let's say we've got a load of questions. Public string array. That's questions. Equals new string array 3. What is the square root of 81? Obviously, these would just be hard-coded into your class like this, but just as an example. What is the capital of France? Who played the 10th Doctor? And then comma is missing there. Okay, so we've got our test questions here. And let's create a little test state here. Public void send out questions to all players. And now we simply go for each player P in Hackbox. No, it's already in Hackbox. In lobby players, P dot. No, not P dot. We simply need to go send text only to P dot Hackbox avatar, and then the messages are going to be test questions. And it really should be as simple as that. So we're still. So we stopped the build, so we're going to need to reload. And authorize. If anyone else wants to do this, by the way, PFHT. I'm just going to authorize my account to speed up that process. Okay, so we're into the game, and then if we go to send out questions to all players, and just like that, in a couple of lines of code, we've now got all of our information being able to be sent out, as many or as few text boxes as you like, with a single click of the button. And that will have gone to all players who are in the game. So I'm going to have a vape. Okay, so that's basic text boxes. Let's look at let's do options next. Options, if we want to send options to players. So let's start by creating our shortcuts, because we've already talked about how our options get added, and for now what I'm going to do here is going to create an overload of this real quick that doesn't have option returns. Instead, that's going to be option labels. In fact, no, I'll just leave this as option labels for now. So that means the value that gets returned to the build will be the same as what is written on the label, whereas this one, you can give it a different return path. So the label might say David Tennant, but the thing that gets returned to the game might be A, for example. But for the sake of ease for now, let's keep this simple. So let's go button public void send out options to all players. Again, we're going to go for each player P in lobby players. And before we can do that, we need to create some shortcuts for it. So let's go public void send options. We need a member to send it to. We need member M. We need question, and we need string array, which is our options, or option labels, I'll call them. And we can overload this if we like with string color code. And if we do that, we're just going to go send options M question option labels empty string, and then the action is going to happen here. So as here, it's going to be state. We'll call this we'll call it Q state if we like. Generate base state color code game title, and we're going to go add text box to state Q state and question. So that's going to put the question at the top. We then want to go add options to state. For that, it needs the question state and it needs the option labels. And then Hackbox host dot update member state M question state. Simple as that. So we've got our overload there. I'm not bothering with the multiple because probably won't need, because the options will populate those multiples for us anyway. So if we now go, let's just create a little test question. Public string test question equals new string. What is the first episode of new Doctor Who called? We've been watching Doctor Who, sue me. So we don't need to do new string, do we? We just go like that. And then public string array options, test options, equals new string array 4, and we'll call them Violet, Lily, Iris, Rose. That's our 4 options. And we go send options p.hackbox avatar, and we need the question, which is test question, and the options, which is test options. I realise my labelling scheme here isn't particularly helpful because I've got send out options to all players and then send options, which are a little bit similar, so leaving possible ambiguity. But for now, that should do the trick. So, see these been added in here. There's my test options. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to shuffle options and how to recognise whether an answer is correct, but actually, let's do that. Actually, let's do that. We'll go public string correct answer equals Rose. However you want to manage your logic is up to you, but just so we've got an idea. So let's sign ourselves in again. Just before I do this, what I'm going to do is flag reload host, because what reload host does, it means note the room code at the moment is SJWS, or the last room code before I stop the build. If I select reload host and I reload the game, it's going to load it back into the same room, SJWS. So what that effectively means is I can keep this Hackbox window open at all times. So if I now go send out options to all players, what is the first episode of New Doctor Who called? Violet, Lily, Iris, Rose. And note our test options come up in the order that we've put in there. So that's quite useful. And these are all nicely formatted thanks to our preset, which is where the orange box comes from, and the white font, and you can hit an option. Now at the moment when you hit an option, nothing happens. If we just turn the Hackbox debugging back on just a moment, then we should be enough. Just like that. And we go send out options to all players. If I hit Rose, you'll now see the response that comes through. Now, if I had set the labels as something different from the returns, or the values as they're called, then answer equals Rose will be answer equals whatever the value is. It just so happens that the value is the same as the label here. So that is coming back in. Now, how do we process that? Well, this is where I like to get into the player class here. So we're going to go public void, player has given an answer. And this will always be in string format because that's what Hackbox uses. So we're going to accept a string as an answer, given answer. And we'll say if given answer equals, let's just make this static for a minute so I can access it from anywhere, equals Hackbox control dot correct answer debug log dot print bold green, and we'll go player name. Let's do the proper formatting. Player name was correct, else red, player name was incorrect, they said give an answer. Let's change the formatting slightly. Okay. And then we need to call this whenever an answer comes in. So for this, I will put a standard method here, public void on response received, and we'll go, we have to accept a message type. And if we go back into the inspector, back up to our host component, on message, you'll see there, we can associate with our Hackbox control on response received. So whenever we receive a response, it'll trigger this action, this event here, and come back, come through to this method. So on response received, this is where I create a little finder method, which I'm going to call public player get player from member, because of course we're receiving a Hackbox member. So mess.member, that will be the Hackbox member. That's not the player, which is our own custom class which controls all the logic. So we need to be able to get this player. So we're going to return lobby players dot first or default x dot Hackbox avatar equals mess, and we need to pass that message through there. I just need to pass the member through, equals mem. Now this will never return as null, because by definition, if somebody is going to be sending messages, they need to be on this lobby players list in the first place. So that, I mean, you can put a catch in there to say if this is null, then do something else, but you shouldn't be encountering issues like that. So we're then going to go get player from member, mess.member dot player has given an answer, which is going to be mess.value. So options go out to players, we receive a response, we get their Hackbox avatar, and then we call this method over here. Player has given an answer, and we debug one if it's right and the other if it's wrong. Let's see if it works. It up. Should reload me. There we go. Send out options to all players. Press violet. Ben was incorrect. They said violet. Now notice this is still going to a grey screen here, so we still need to send some response back to the player. If I probably need to stop it, then I can just send out options again. So if I go send out questions to all players, send out options to all players. Now if we go rows, Ben was correct. And our options, and it refreshes it. So this is sort of the power that Hackbox can do. You can sort of send out states whenever you like to whichever players you like. It doesn't have to be all. I've just done one for all players here. If anyone else is playing along, anyone else has signed in with this SJWS, then you will be able to do this as well. Now, the final thing we're going to want to do for a question like this is send some response to our player. So let's say on response received, it's sort of a matter of sort of up to you where you send the response back, whether you send a response back immediately in here. I think it's generally better to do it from here, because although this doesn't have a reference to the Hackbox class. Good question. How do we get around this? What might be a better way of doing this for now is just to go send text only to mess.member, and we'll say I received your answer. That's the way I'm going to do it for now, just so that they've got something other than that default holding screen. So when we go send out options to all players, press rows, I received your answer. So the game has got that over here, but you've got some holding screen for your player at the other end, so that they know that it has been processed. So yeah, call that answer received rather than personifying Hackbox. Answer received. Okay, so that's the options component. Let's have a look at live features text now. People playing really, really, really very Good. Oh, hello. Whoa! Good lord, Ruffled Bricks with a raid of 152. Hi. Hello, Bricks. Major disaster, welcome. You call yourself Rufflandians. Toby Ellis, songwriter. Hello. Good lord. Bricks. 152. That's a lot of people. Welcome. We're doing a bit of a dev stream here. Has it crashed? Has it crashed as soon as that's happened? The raid has broken me. Wow. Did it break? Has it broke or is it just me? The other frames? Am I actually still live? Because my OBS looks like it's crashed. I can't be sure. It might have broken. Chat is still working, maybe just webcam. You're live, but the camera is... Ah! Right. Good to know. Thanks for that. I thought maybe OBS had just crashed. Oh, on-screen chat is moving. That's good. Right, let me fix the camera. Deactivate. Oh, I know what's happened. My spaniel under my desk would have unplugged it from the machine. Yes, that's 100% what's happened. Ow. There we go. Yeah, sorry, my spaniel unplugged the USB port. Anyone want to see another spaniel? Hello, Shapes. Hello, Dexter. You coming up? Oh, he's a big boy. This is Dexter. So yeah, we're doing a bit of a tutorial development stream this afternoon. So anyone into coding? Yes, we pet the pupper. Look over here, Dex. Look at the camera. Oh, we love you. We pet him, give him many pets. Right, go back to sleep now. Anyway, Bricks, thank you for the raid. How was ESA? Did you have a good time? I hope you did. I saw the very tail end of your Worms 2 run, which was... it were good. Glad to hear. Well, thank you for the raid. It's very much appreciated. For anyone who doesn't know, my name's Royal Flush. I generally stream quiz shows, interactive quiz shows and game shows, though you've caught me doing a bit of a development stream this afternoon. Oh, the dog's gone back on the camera wire. Hopefully he won't pull it out this time. But yes, doing a bit of a tutorial this afternoon, so if you're remotely interested in quiz or game shows, do give us a follow. We're about 20 away from 1,000, at which point I will probably have to do something. Usually stream on... Well, I got my last Tuesday stream on this Tuesday, because I'm just about to start a new job. But generally stream on Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Toby Ellis song... Was that Toby Ellis songwriter? Yes, Toby Ellis songwriter. Thank you very much for that follow. Shapes, thank you for the voice of support. Much appreciated. So, we've done options, and it's really quite a straightforward thing. Let's look at doing a different thing. Let's say you wanted to add some different parameters to what is returned to the build. So let's say your game runs the answers as tracking A, B, C, and D. All we need to change would be in our option returns here. We'd need to set that as option returns. So we just need to give it an extra parameter when we generate the state. So let's go send options to all, test options. Let's just create a new string array here. We'll call it return values equals new string for array A, B, C, D, for example. And then we go return values. Oh, it doesn't like that. Why doesn't it like that? Okay. Oh, yes, that's because I haven't done the shortcut for it yet. So to do that, we're just going to go correct that, don't we? Put that string array option returns, and we're also going to need to add it into there. Option returns. And okay, this is going to get slightly unwieldy in a minute because I put that colour thing on the end as well. String array. Option returns. So we've got it there, and we can now just go add options to state and check our option returns in there. And return values, but here we are also going to need a Dexter, please stop stealing my mouse. The dog is under the desk and playing with the mouse. So send out options to all players. It's now going to return the letters A, B, C, and D instead. So again, let's... No worries, Bricks. Thank you very much again for that raid. That's very kind of you. Oh, the dog has managed to... Dex, come out from under this. Sorry. He's managed to get himself tangled in all these wires. You are a very silly beast, aren't you? Please don't... This is why doggies don't go under the desk. My camera's going to come back to life now because it's actually... Oh, that's good. Come here. Right. Little ball of destruction you are. Go. No more under the desk. There's too many wires down there. Right. I'll have to tidy that up in a bit. So, we're back in the game. No desk. Come on, piss off. And send out options to all players. Let's say we say Lily. Ben was incorrect. They said it's now saying B rather than Lily. So it's given a different return path. So if you wanted to do that, then that's a nice way of doing that. Okay. So that's options. Let's look at text box because that one's relatively straightforward. All we're going to need to do is create a new shortcut, public void, send text input. So give it a member. And this one will need a couple of overloads to it. Because you might just want to send a text box without any stuff at the top. So member M and string question. And void send text input member M string question string color code pack. So this is just going to go send text input M blank blank. This one is just going to go M question blank. And then this one is where we're actually going to create the state. So qstate equals generate base state, color code, give it its header, game title, add text box to state, qstate, and question. So here we do need to put a condition in. If question does not equal blank, so if it's a blank question, obviously we don't need a text box there, but if it is a question in there, if question does not equal blank, then we'll go add text box to state, qstate, question. And then we need to add input box to state, just to pass the state, simple as that. And then Hackbox host dot update member state. M and qstate. Easy peasy. So let's create a new thing to send out. question testing. I'm actually going to put this in a new region, just so that we're keeping things separate. Region response handler. So I have to go into there again in just a minute. So void send out poll to all players, and we're going to go simply send out send text input. That's what I've called it there. Send text input for each player P in lobby players. Send text input, and we're going to give them the member there. And what is your favourite flavour of dog food? And we've got the option to put in a colour hex code at the end as well. It's not N, it's p.hackboxavatar. I need a comment. So now, when we go back over here, there'll be a new button down here for us to press. Send out poll to all players. So again, anybody who wants to come join this room, you will be able to SJWS. Send out poll to all players. What is your favourite? See, it's gone green. What is your favourite flavour of dog food? And there is now a text box where we can type our answers in. So if we go lamb hot pot and press enter, answer received. Ben was incorrect, they said lamb hot pot. So what's happening here is that it's still processing the same through the same method as before, but it is giving us answer received. Now we might want to change exactly what is being had. And this is probably one of the reasons why I use letters for multiple choice questions, because it's just going to take the value that is there, and what you can see on a text input, it just takes exactly what they typed in as a string and throws that out whichever way they do it. So yeah, that's why we have different things there, but it's still giving us answer received, and it really is as simple as that. So send text input, lamb hot pot. Job's a good one. Right, let's look at multi-select, and then I'll do range. Multi-select is one I haven't done for a while, and I need to remind myself how it works. So we've got our multi-select state there. So let's just get a basic state sent out. Button, public void, send out multi-select to all players. Go for each player P in lobby players. Why have I done that? Send multi-select. We're going to need to create something up here. Public void, send multi-select, member M, string. I won't bother with all the overloads this time. String question, string array, options, and color string color code. So yeah, I've demonstrated the overloads up here. I'm not going to do them for every single one because it's just a dummy project. You get the idea of them though. So send multi-select is what we're going to need to do, and we're going to need to give it a member. So that's p.hackboxavatar. Question is going to be put these countries in order from. Let's go starting with the USA, put these as seen on the Mercator projection, put these countries in order from west to east. Okay, and then we're going to need some options, which I'm going to need to define outside of here. String array, countries equals new string array. Let's give you 5 to work with this time. Let's go Oman, Paraguay, Belarus, Fiji, Central African Republic. I don't know, pick some countries. So, we can then send out countries, and we'll give it a green, let's say. So, let's see, send multi-select. I need to actually write this method. So again, we're going to need to create a new state. Question state equals generate base state with the color code and the header game title. Add text box to state, which to question state, which is question. Add now this is where I need to create something new in the generation region. It's basically going to be the same as options, except we are going to add multi-select options. We're going to call that to state. And it's going to be exactly the same. We're going to get rid of option returns, just because I don't want to fart about with it. And the only difference here is that we're going to change the preset. So instead of options box, we're going to change this to multi-select box. Remember, we defined that up at the top, multi-select box, and that's been set in our preset state. Everything else should work in exactly the same way. State components.add, assigning your labels and values. All of that is exactly the same. The only thing that's different is multi-select box right there. So that's a straight copy-paste job, I think. I'll find out in a minute. So send multi-select, as seen on the case, just put these countries from west to east, and it's going to come up in green. And let's see if that works. If it's a semicolon. Oh no, I haven't finished writing the method yet. So add multi-select options to state, Q state, and we'll give it options, and then Hackbox host dot update member state Q state. Okay, so let's run it. It'll hopefully reload. And let's have a look. When we go send out multi-select to all players, as seen on the McCabe projection, put these countries in order from east to west. No, okay, so I've clearly done something wrong there. Let's find out and have another look. Add multi-select options to state, which is what I did. Maybe I've done something differently on the preset. Or I haven't done something differently on the preset. Multi-select. That's the problem. So I've just copied it over, but it's at the moment it is just exactly the same as that. So what I need to do is get rid of that and add in a multi-select. In fact, I put choices on as well. But now we've just got that. That's what I missed off, that multi-select component, which I meant to add onto the preset, but didn't. So there we go. Now the multi-select is on the preset. Hopefully, when we run it now, that should all be the same, because we're now using the multi-select box, which has got the multi-select on it. We run the game. Send out multi-select to all players, and note we've got our submit button at the bottom, and now we can select them all, which is really useful. So this is sort of like fastest finger first level stuff, or wipeout. So we can either do this today to select all the countries that are, for example, in Europe, or we can do it as an ordering one. So if I click all 5 and then go submit, they said Oman, Belarus, Paraguay, Fiji, Central African Republic. Was that the order I pressed them? I can't remember. Let's go let's put them in alphabetical order. So Belarus, Central African Republic, Fiji, Oman, Paraguay. Do they come up in alphabetical order? Yes, they do. Belarus, Central African Republic, Fiji, Oman, and Paraguay. Notice they're just comma separated. So if, for example, it was a different sort of question where you want to only select the right answers and avoid the wipeouts, so in this case, let's select ones that, I don't know, all the ones that contain an E, for example, So you need Belarus, Central African Republic, and it just comes up with the two that we've selected there. And from that point, you can sort of do anything you like with the data that's come in. It's and this is gonna change depending on what sort of game you're making and what your sort of workflow is. But that's just the essentials of how multi-select works. When it comes in, it does just come in as one big comma-separated string. So if you wanted to separate out the answers, and again, this is another reason why it's sometimes useful to have a different return value, so A, B, C, D, E, rather than the full name. You can separate them out, and then you can compare them in whatever way you want to check whether they're right or wrong. But that's multi-select. Dead easy, exactly the same as the choices, except your preset's got an extra Boolean value flagged on it. So, I'm nearly there with sort of what I wanted to show. What I did want to do was the range function, which is a relatively new one. Yeah, then I can go and fix my pub quiz build for tonight, which I haven't done yet. The music round has stopped working for reasons I can't explain. So let's create ourselves a range component. So let's base it off of multi-select. We'll call this range box. Now this is when I did the pilot Dealer's Den, and there was different questions, but different range boxes, so you could answer any of the 5 questions in whatever order you wanted. I needed to start looking at adding values on as well. So first of all, let's make it a range. Let's clear these parameters out because we don't need them. Let's clear width out because we don't need it. Event is the one I was referring to there. Oh, why have you added choices on? Don't want to do that. Let's add min. Okay, so that's a bug, which I will need Ash to have a look at. Or it might be something I can do something about. Ash, have you come across this one? If you're still here. Create Hackbox preset range preset range. No, it's working now. So we'll just add on min max 100. Event, we'll call it my new range. Oh, it might be because I'm in play mode. It's probably not helping, is it? Maybe that'll work now. There we go. Never mind, it was because I was in play mode. So we can get rid of that. Oh shit, no, that's my multi-select. Okay. There we go. Right, that's back to normal now. So range box, this is what I want to delete. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's add our event, our min, and our max. Step I've not used, but I'm assuming that is what increments it slides up in. So we won't worry too much about that just for now. So this is my range box. I'm going to need to add it to the top of the class as well, so that we can reference it in code. Public preset range box. Let's associate it. There we go, range box. Violet Lily Iris Rose, that's from our previous question. And this should be as simple as all the others have been. So let's stick it into the input generation, which actually generates the state. Okay, let me see if I remember how to do this. Public void add range box state, and I'm going to need some different parameters here. So int minimum value, and I wonder if Ash has fixed the bug where it always defaults to 0. Int maximum value, and that's all you're going to need for this. So we go UI component. Range equals new UI component. find the properties, name equals main, preset equals range box. Not that same kind as there. Now, how do I do this? I can't remember. State.components.add maybe? Is it as simple as that? State.components.add range. It will be that, but first of all we need to go range dot set parameter value minimum value. I think it's this. I'll find out in a minute, and that will be maximum value. I can't imagine it being anything else. So state.components.add range and minimum value, maximum value, and then add it onto the stage. So onto the stage. That's not a word. Button public void send out range box to all players. State was the word I was after. So we'll go for each player P in lobby players. I need to create one up here first of all. So we've done the generation. Now we need to generate the package. So effectively what we're doing is this generation thing down here. This is creating the individual components that we need to create our sort of standard templates. The state shortcuts is creating the whole state together. So this is where we're going to go send range. And we're going to need member M, string question, int minimum, int, it's not okay with a random I, int maximum, and string color code. Again, I'm not going to be asked with the overloads just now. State, qstate equals generate base state of color code and called game title. Add text box to state, because we are still going to need some sort of header. Add text box to state, qstate and question. Add range box to qstate, and with the minimum and the maximum. And then Hackbox host dot update member state m qstate. And now to send that to all of them, we need to go for each player P in lobby. We're going to go fuck off. Send range to p.hackboxavatar question. On a scale of 0 to 100, how much have you enjoyed this tutorial? And then we'll go 0 to 100 and we'll make it red. Let's see if that works. Fingers crossed. How about that? On a scale of 0 to 100, how much have you enjoyed this tutorial? But notice it hasn't actually added on a range box, which is interesting. I have a feeling I might need to do host version 2 for this. Let's find out. There we go. So, notice it's all going slightly different colours now because I've just switched it up to host version 2. Range boxes is only supported in version 2 or higher. So if you are needing range boxes in whatever game you're making, make sure your host version is set to 2. Notice also my states have now completely changed, so they're all a little bit different from how they were. But my multi-select is... Oh no, that's... Something has gone very wrong by changing to version 2, so that's something I'm going to need to check on. So that poll to all players. Sunday lunch. So that's still returning okay. Send out options to all players. That's working just fine. Send out multi-select. Now this one doesn't seem to be working anymore. And likewise the headers have all changed slightly. So that might be something I'm going to need to consult with Ash on as to why all of these things have changed when you change the value. Send out your multi-select. Multi-select is no longer working in version 2. There's probably something relatively simple that I need to change. Call that buzz for some reason. But we'll I'll find that out. But as you can see, the range box is indeed there, and you can slide from 0 to 100. And they said 100. Still coming back. Okay. Something weird with how the styles get applied. Okay. I will need to look into the changes then, because obviously range only works in version 2. Found. Okay. So it might be there's a bug in the Hackbox code itself, in the integration stuff. Right thing now calls other wrong things. Okay, fair enough. So it's either if you need to use range, you can't use it with multi-select. It seems at the moment. So you'll, I'm sure Ash will patch that out in the coming days. I am curious to see if Ash has patched out the bug on this on a scale of 50 to 100, and if we set that back to 50 now. Oh no, we haven't. Okay, we're about to see that in action. So we send out a range box, and it still starts at 0. Now note when you slide it, it immediately snaps to 51, and you can't go lower than 51. You can type below 51. The way you get around that, if you don't want someone to type anything out of a particular range, we're going to need to define the range event. So call it, we'll just call it range question, for example. Now on response received, if mess.event equals .value, no, just mess.event equals range question. Did I put it range question? Yes, I did. Now we can add some catches here. So if int.tryparse mess.value out int I. Remember how to do this. Comma's not right. Let me try this again. If int.tryparse mess.value out int I. Do I need a comma? I don't need a comma. Oh, to go inside the parentheses. Let's get my syntax a bit muddled up there. There we go. So that means that they have submitted a number and it's parsed it. If I is less than 50 or I is greater than 100, i.e. it's outside of the range, then we don't want to send them this, we want to send them back the state. So send out range box to all players. I mean, I'm sending it out to all players. If I just go send range mess dot get player from member mess.member, and we'll just now answer the question properly. And we'll still get 50 and 100. Obviously, you wouldn't do it this way again. You'd do it through another method, but just to give you an example of what we're doing here. What have I done? Dot avatar. So if they send something outside of the range, then it will just send them the range again. Let's see if that works. So Hackbox control, send out range to all players. Let's be silly and give it -5. now answer the question properly, and it just sends it back out again. Still collects the answer, the data that comes in, but it will just send it back out to the player, and then your logic can just choose not to store that. So 81, there we go. The reality is all of this this response receive stuff should probably happen inside the player class rather than inside the Hackbox class, because then it's just then with the object that you need it to be associated with, and any data that needs to be saved is going to be stored in that place already. But just as a quick and dirty way of showing you how to do this, yeah. So that's about it. That's all there is to Hackbox, really. Key things to take away from that once you got through the setup and you're not farting about with AsDevs and TwitchLib and stuff. Number one, authorization usage, depending on whether or not you've got other players, so whether you're on a sort of a public setting like in Twitch, for example, where you don't know who's coming and players can set up multiple accounts, you should probably get some level of authorization, either by forcing them to validate through Twitch, forcing them to have an authorized account set up, and that'll be up here. You can just do, instead of doing this, you could just do, for example, if someone joins without, just go send out, send text only to mem. You must have validated with Twitch to play, and then just don't let them go any further. So if I show you this now, and I try and join with this account, SJWS, which is not signed in, you must have validated with Twitch to play. So it's not going to let you go any further. So some level of authorization is going to be really, really useful for you, depending on use case. Like I say, if you're just making a game for Discord server where it's on a private server and it only takes the first 5 players or whatever, then you can maybe get away without it. But otherwise, some level of authorization would be good. Little coroutine there to download your profile pic, and then once they've been verified, send the text back out, and obviously you're going to initiate your prefab, whatever that is, in the game. Then it's a case of, effectively there are 2 different stages here. The Hackbox input generation, which is the creative, that should probably be called Hackbox component generation, because it's not state generation. This is state generation. So if you think of it as having, there's, put that down there. So if you think of this as having, response sound can go down there. There's three stages, or 2 stages to sending stuff out. You create the components, which is effectively an extension of setting up the presets, but you can do a bit more with it using some of these methods here. You can overload, so you can have some variety. And they're the sort of the nuts and bolts of what Hackbox is. But then the dressing and the way it's going to be dressed up and presented, that's going to be in your state generation. So you create your components in component generation, and then state generation is concerned with bringing different components together for standard state. So if you just want to send text only, you might want to do that as a single message, multiple messages. It's just a case of adding a text only, adding a text box to a state, for example. Then you might want to have something with question and options. You might just want to have options with no question on your screen. I don't know. It depends very much, again, on the use case. Text input. So you might want to have something where you've got options and text input. So if you were doing like a survey, you have question, options, and then a text box for other, maybe. So a sort of survey thing. Multi-selectors there, though, doesn't look like it's working in version 2, and I say Ash will probably patch that out in a future update. And then range, which is the latest component. And it's all very, very simple to add, and what I should probably do is make this class available somewhere, which I will at some point. If you wanted to have a play with it, or if you wanted to borrow some of these sort of preset states, so you don't have to worry about cobbling them together, they're just sort of there. But yeah, that's about it, really. If anyone's got any questions or has any concerns or further questions, 2 places you can go. One of them is to, well, there's several places you can go, principally 3. That Discord there, which is the official Hackbox Discord, change logs and general bug reports and feature requests and things go in there. And also it's a good place for help. There is my Discord, which is right there. And there's Ash's Discord, which has a number of people in there as well, also using Hackbox. So any of those places, if you've got any questions, do fire them in our general direction, and we'll be happy to try and help. 5:30, finished a bit quicker than I thought I would. Unless there's anything else anybody wants to see particularly before I wrap up in the Hackbox world. In the meanwhile, I think we're going to go raid Eric. He's still on. Still going? He's AFK at the moment. We're going 2.5 hours, so okay, well, if there's nothing else, then we'll leave it there. But thank you all very much for watching. I hope that's been useful and helpful, and you've taken something out of it. Like I say, if you've got any more questions in the meanwhile, please do give me a shout, and I'll make this... I'll VOD this so that you can come back and refer to it in the future, if that would be of use. Cool. I'll be back on Tuesday with actually a special stream on Tuesday. This is my last Tuesday stream. It's actually going to be a little bit more to it than I had originally planned. But Crossfire, Cryptex, the Mole, and stuff. So got that to look forward to. Hope to see you there. We'll go and raid Eric, but for now, thank you very much for joining. And yeah, I'll see you another time. I've been Royal Flush. You've been watching How To with Hackbox. And until next time, take care. Peace out and good night. Or good evening, I suppose. Whatever it is.